Half man, half monster, a botanical expedition to the Himalayas, capture a Yeti and bring it back alive to Los Angeles, where it escapes and runs amok, seeking food. Hello and welcome to Sasquatch Cinema. Today's episode we are discussing The Snow Creature from 1953. I am Isaac.
And I'm Steven.
We're going to discuss all things Bigfoot. Today we're talking about a Yeti. But before we get into that, how are you, Steven?
I'm doing just fine, Isaac. Another week of work gone by. I always try to find something kind of squatchy to talk about. And I saw something. I didn't see a Bigfoot. Don't worry. Well, there's an overpass to I-64. So I'm going over this overpass here. There's a yard that is just filled up with shipping containers. It's a shipping container yard, pretty much. In that little area, they have painted on the side of one of the shipping containers a Bigfoot outline. I guess just to scare people as they drive across, I don't know, or just to be funny. I was pretty excited about it. I think it's shippingcontainerskentucky.com. They apparently like the Bigfoots.
Yep, or somebody likes the Bigfoot, at least in the local region, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a dude that like painted one on the side, and they
Yeah.
were just like, "Ah, shoot! Now we've got a Bigfoot on the side of one of our shipping containers."
Management was like,
This could be our documentary. Instead of finding Bigfoot, it would be painting Bigfoot.
painting. That's how we can be different. So my week was also kind of squatchy in a little bit different way. So I went to Atlanta this weekend.
Very exciting.
When you drive down to Atlanta, you have to pass through a very mountainous region of Tennessee and Georgia, Appalachia specifically. That's a very, I think, squatchy area. And on the drive back up, I was sitting in the passenger seat. A friend of mine was driving, and I see a big billboard that Bigfoot Expedition sign, like advertising you can go on a Bigfoot expedition with a Bigfoot on a billboard. So that was what I saw, and I think I saw a similar billboard on the way down as well. But
Oh, that's so exciting.
yeah.
Was it in our state, or was it?
It was in Tennessee.
I was in Tennessee.
Yeah,
Makes
Mhm.
sense. I mean, the Smokies. Surely there's.
no, not in Smokies. This is much more of the Appalachias because we were on that
Really?
side. Because Tennessee is like half Smokies and half Appalachia. Because
Yeah.
like Appalachia, like kind of just runs down the East Coast for the most part, like Georgia, South Carolina, all that. So
Mhm.
this was more on the Appalachian side. I know the difference between how the Smokies look and how the Appalachians look. The Appalachians
Gotcha.
are a lot more trees, a lot more. There's just a lot more trees, and we were also kind of near like Cumberland Gap, and that's Appalachia. So,
Nice.
so I knew it wasn't the Smokies, but I bet there is a Bigfoot expedition in the Smokies in Tennessee for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm also aware. We're not too far from Red River Gorge in Kentucky. Maybe an hour drive or so.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there's a lot of Bigfoot expeditions over there. So if anybody ever wants to sponsor us to go on one, I mean, I guess we'd be willing to do that. I mean, our lane is much more the cinema side of the
Yes.
Squatch. And we certainly don't want. I'm going to be honest. We don't want to pay any money for anything that's not movie related. So and we want to do as little of that as possible.
If you pay us to make a movie about our expedition, we'll do that.
Yeah. It will not turn out with us finding Bigfoot because
No.
I mean, we don't think it probably exists, but
neither of us are lucky enough to encounter someone like that, anyways. Too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But as we're going along with this, I think we have gone far astray. We have hiked far astray from our topic, and so as this movie features a lot of hiking, like more than Lord of the Rings, like I think we should probably use that as a segue to get into this.
The Snow Creature, yes. The Snow Creature from 1953, directed by something Wilder.
W. Lee Wilder.
Dr. Lee Wilder, starring actors I don't recognize, and I don't think went on to do anything great.
Actually, there are some notable things about this.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah. So W. Lee Wilder, director of this movie, Another couple movies that I guess are notable: Killers from Space and Phantom from Space. So apparently the guy liked the space. He's actually the great Billy Wilder's brother. Billy Wilder,
Nice.
of course, the director of Double Indemnity, Some Like It Hot, ton of other fantastic movies. Maybe one of the greatest writer directors, period. Like just full stop. Just did a lot of great stuff. But this was apparently a family affair because his son Miles Wilder wrote the screenplay for this, which is, I mean, I guess that's kind of nice.
We will have seen things to say about that screenplay as well.
Yeah,
A few foreshadowing for what we're about to talk about.
yeah, and to be fair, I'm sure W. Lee and Miles Wilder were great dudes, but like at least from our experience with this film, untalented dudes. Miles Wilder did write Phantom from Space, which his father also directed. He also wrote. I found this kind of funny. A Disney live action family film called My Dog the Thief.
Hmm. I've never seen this.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't either. I heard tell that he was a television-based comedy writer, so
Oh.
there's a chance maybe the guy has some comedic talents that was not on display here. But there wasn't a whole lot of intentional comedy in
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 this
this
film,
movie,
yeah.
so I mean, maybe he's good at that.
That would make sense. Like he was trying to make his maybe he tried to make it in film, didn't make it, but found his talent in like writing for television with Disney and um, stuff like that. Like maybe writing for sitcoms and things like that. Maybe he found his career there.
For sure.
Uh,
And I mean, it's well known that film is a director's medium, television is a writer's medium.
yeah, to a certain
That's
extent, yes, yeah.
that's kind of how it is. And so maybe he did some good stuff. This movie stars a fella named Paul Langdon. I've actually heard of two of the movies that he's been in. Haven't seen either one of them yet, though. He was in The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Oh, I've heard of that
Um,
one. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, it actually has a Criterion release, so apparently it's good enough for that.
I always consider Criterion always like they look at films like this is like a classic and future like cinema classic or whatever.
If they thought it was good enough, maybe it's worth watching.
Yeah.
It's always a sort of lower price point for a Criterion as well, so
Yeah.
that might be one to pick up this November during the second Criterion Barnes and Noble 50% off sale. Uh, we're not sponsored by Criterion or Barnes and Noble, but
No.
you should patronize both.
Criterion, if you're listening, if you have any Bigfoot releases, give them to us and we will watch them and gladly rave about the beauty of the images and your quality stuff and all the goodies you put in your DVDs. So if you give us Bigfoot release DVD, like Criterion releasing Harry and the Hendersons on Blu-ray.
Yes. Oh man, if that were to happen.
Honestly, I don't think it's too far off, like too far fetched. That feels like, oh, is that too far fetched? No, I don't think.
And then, of course, we have another Paul Langdon film, Man's Favorite Sport. This one is not incredibly well known, but I own it and yet have yet to watch it. It is a screwball comedy by Howard Hawks. Howard
Oh,
Hawks, of course, being another great director, famously directed Rio Bravo, Only Angels Have Wings,
okay.
huge influence on John Carpenter, another of our favorite filmmakers. So Paul Langdon, I mean, he's in some stuff. Probably was a talented guy outside of this picture.
Well, maybe we don't know if he was in leading roles like he was in this picture, or if he was just a minor character in
This is
those.
true. This is
Because
true.
because you really have to like look. Because if they get credited on Letterboxd or IMDb, you gotta look. It's like, okay, where are they in the cast list? Oh, they're really far down there.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
It's also it is worth saying that he is in a movie that is released by the Criterion Collection. That movie's trailer was also narrated by Orson Welles, so it could be that the entire reason that they released it was another thing that Orson Welles did. We got to put it out there.
Honestly, I respect that. I think Criterion is like, oh, Orson Welles made a thing, we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I respect that.
So we also have a co-star, a fella named Leslie Dennison. He is in two famous films that, again, I'm aware of. I've seen one of them. The one that I haven't seen is To Be or Not to Be, which is a classic comedy from the
Mel
1940s.
Brooks. Well, it's not Mel Brooks.
Well, Mel Brooks did a remake of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the Mel Brooks remake, and it's not bad.
Yeah. He's in To Be or Not to Be. He is also apparently credited as being in Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the Disney animated film,
Oh,
which I'm a big fan of. I've always liked that.
yeah. A fun Sleepy Hollow adaptation.
Absolutely. And Wind of the Willows adaptation. So I like both of those stories, and the movie is good, in my opinion. We have also starring in this picture a fellow by the name of Teru Shimada. He is the guy that played, was it Sabra or something like that?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, their guide.
yeah, their guide through the mountains. He is in a couple of notable films as well. He's in You Only Live Twice, the great James Bond film.
That's a fun one. I like that one.
Yeah, really fun movie where James Bond pretends to be a Japanese man at one point.
Oh, it's that one. I was thinking of a Roger Moore flick, and for
Yeah.
some reason, okay, never mind.
It's actually a fun movie though. It is bat crap insane. And speaking of bats, he is also in Batman the movie from 1966.
Well, 1966 version of Batman. I don't know if did it release in
I
1966.
believe it's 66. Yeah,
No, oh, maybe it's 67. I think it was a year after the
could
show,
be,
because after the first season,
could
or
be.
maybe not. I can't remember. But anyways, the Batman 66 movie.
Yeah, so he's in that, and so that as well is notable. And then we always like to give a little bit of a spot to our guys in gorilla suits or the guys that are playing the Bigfoot creature or whatever. So I want to give a little shout out to Lock Martin as the snow creature. He's known for being in The Day the Earth Stood Still. I believe he played the robot in The Day the Earth Stood Still. I'm going to double check on that really quick. Yes, he played Gort, the robot in The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Nice.
And guess what? He's also in The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Interesting.
So multiple connections to the Incredible Shrinking Man in here, which is kind of interesting. Just in general, we weren't a big fan of Lock Martin in this, but he played Gort. I mean, he's an all-time classic actor just because of that, because he played Gort.
The Day the Earth Stood Still, much better experience in movie than this one. And The Day the Earth Stood Still is a slow movie, but it's actually a good slow movie.
Yes, this is very true.
So with that, do you have any other fun facts about production before we get right into the summary?
I think we can kind of cover most of these throughout the rest of it. It is notable to say that this is the first American Yeti film. It seems to me that the Yeti became a little bit more popular before the Bigfoot in terms of cinema. So this is considered to be the first American Yeti film. That being said, it is not the first film that featured the Yeti. In my research, I actually found a movie that we should go back and watch sometime if we can find it available. From 1912, Georges Méliès' À la conquête du pôle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I think it's about the conquest of the pole. It's from 1912, and Méliès' film actually features a version of the Yeti before the distinctive footprints were part of the mythology.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. And 4 months before this movie came out, there was a movie. I cannot figure out what language this is, but whatever the language is, it translates out to Pekka and Shorty chase the Yeti. And it is a comedy
Interesting.
about children named Pekka and Shorty, and they chase the Yeti. It is not streaming anywhere. I can't find any copies of it. But if it is possible to view this, we would like to do it.
Do you have a picture of the language? I might be able to.
Yeah, I'm interested in what you'd have to say about this. Isaac is known for his knowledge of languages. Let's see
Oh,
here.
at least I can recognize like what languages look like in written form sometimes, and narrow it down to what countries are like bordering the Himalayas. And
Here you go, my friend.
so this looks like, actually looking at IMDb, this looks like a Abbott and Costello knockoff duo. Finland. Finnish.
Finland.
That makes sense. I was like, I looked down at the country of origin and it's like that. Whoop. Yeah, that looks right. Like the Finnish. It looks like Finnish.
Wow, that's wild, man. So yeah, if anybody can get us a copy of this Finnish movie starring an Abbott and Costello ripoff,
There's multiple of their other movies that they
yeah,
have,
I
and
looked
they
at that.
they also look like they're in blackface. So maybe that's why they're not in production anymore.
Well, the
That's
Finns, man.
I don't know. If there's a Finnish person listening, look up that film. It was like Pekka and something something.
Pekka and Shorty chase the snow
Yeah,
man or something
Snake
like
Chase
that.
the Snowman. If you're a Finnish, tell us where we can either find those or tell us if we should watch that
If it turns out that we definitely shouldn't because of reasons,
because of racism and other reasons.
well, it didn't stop us for this film.
That's true. We didn't know that going
We
into
did
it.
not know it going in, to be fair. But I think that actually is a good segue to kind of put us into the mode of talking about this
Yeah,
movie.
let's rip this band-aid off and talk about the movie. So, as always, spoilers ahead for the summary. If you care about that for this film, if you want to watch it, go for it. It's on Amazon Prime and Tubi. Fair warning: there are not good scans of this. It's a TV scan. It's like watching it on your like great grandma's TV.
Yeah,
I am not joking. It's like watching it on great grandma's TV.
my assumption is that this came from like a really bad kinescope. Kinescoping, in case y'all don't know, is basically the process of taking a film camera. I don't know exactly why this happened, but I will say that this kind of looks like that. That's kind of the vibe that it gives off. That being said, because of that, it kind of gives it this sort of documentary type quality, which is kind of interesting in the first half of the feature. That part actually takes place in the Himalayas. So what we start off with is a little bit of an introduction with some narration.
You know what the opening narration reminds me of?
What's that?
uh Classic newsreels. Like you go in the theater before your movie, and
Yeah.
that's how people would get their news before television. And and if they weren't at home listening to the radio, so they would go into the theater and they would get news about what's going on in the world from newsreels before their movie. And that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought the aspect ratio was intentional. It's
Yeah.
like newsreel like this, and then it was going to widen once the movie started. No, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's what the opening reminded me of, and I liked that vibe and that setting up of that element.
Do you remember the opening of Citizen Kane, where it opens basically with a newsreel? It's kind of got
Yeah,
that vibe. It's kind of got also, because they have a shot of a map of the region that they're going to go into. It kind of reminds me of the opening of Casablanca. So, I mean, this is sort of in the great tradition, right? And we've got a lot of narration going, also like Citizen Kane and Casablanca, two of the greatest films ever made. Then we kind of zoom in and we are introduced to our main characters, our main cast of characters. Largely, we are talking about a botanist who is played by Paul Langton.
botanist in the mountains.
Yes,
Snowy mountains.
we were perplexed by this throughout. Uh,
If there's any botanists listening, why would a botanist want to go to a snowy mountaintops? Like,
yeah,
why? Because we did research and it's like there's nothing growing on the top of the Himalayas that he would be interested in. And the movie doesn't even state what he's doing.
this is true. He and his cohort, played by Leslie Dennison, these characters are Dr. Frank Parrish and Peter Wells. They are going on an expedition for some botanical research up to the Himalayas, up on Mount Everest. They have decided to contract a Sherpa group led by Subra, played by Teru Shimada.
And speaking of talking about the Shubers, what language do you think Shubers spoke, or these people spoke in Tibet?
I mean, I'm guessing Tibetan or something. I don't know.
Cantonese, Chinese,
Yeah, yeah.
versions of
I
that.
mean,
The
maybe a
less,
smattering of Indian or something
yeah,
because of the area.
this movie looks at all those languages and throws them in the trash and says, "You know what these people speak? Japanese." And so when they start going up the mountain, and Subra is like talking to all of his men, and they start talking to each other, like he's saying goodbye to his wife. They're speaking Japanese.
And it's almost painfully obvious that
Yes,
the actors are Japanese as well.
it truly the sense of the 1950s of all Asians look the same, so they just cast that, which is a Hollywood cliche of all Asians look the same. So we're just going to cast them in various Asian roles and whatnot. No one will notice. Like, no, we notice. If you hang around enough Asians like I do, you can pick up the difference between someone who's Korean, someone who's Japanese, and someone who's Chinese. If you look at certain facial like structure, how they like walk and how they carry themselves as well is sometimes important. You can they are obviously Korean or Chinese or Japanese.
Yeah. And
People,
this movie throws all of that in the trash and says, we are hiring Japanese actors because
yes,
they need the work right now, I guess.
I guess if this is 1953 post-war, I suppose they still needed work. So they go up the mountain, and it cuts back to a shot of Supra's wife getting kidnapped by the snow beast,
Yeah.
or snow creature.
The snow creature, which, yeah, it's guy in a big snowsuit.
I'm just going to rip this band-aid off and go ahead. This costume is the worst we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because when I think of a Yeti costume, I
Mhm.
think of it's like a little bit like it's like a white albino gorilla. Like he's white with white fur, like pink palms and stuff like that, or like pink skin. Or sometimes dark skin like a gorilla's too. But I think white gorilla. This is just man who is tall wearing a fur costume.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, I also hated this costume. I thought this
Yeah.
was so dumb. I do like the presence of this guy who is super tall. I believe he was over 7 foot.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing the height or
Yes,
anything.
of course.
I'm criticizing how the movie.
Sort of to add a little bit more context, even though, again, I completely agree with Isaac. This sucks. Like, this is the worst costume possibly ever. I don't know.
So far, well, I will leave the door open for it to get worse because it can always get worse. But so far, from everything we've watched, this is bad.
Listen, I've seen Godzilla versus or King Kong versus Godzilla from the '63. That has possibly one of the worst ape suits in history, and it's better than this.
Yeah.
Like, it's insanely better than this. Regardless, we do have that actor. He apparently had a lot of sort of physical problems. Probably couldn't wear sort of the more extensive suit stuff, like
Prosthetics and stuff.
yeah, prosthetics or even like a regular old gorilla suit. Those things they weigh a bit. He apparently had very brittle bones, was not a strong man. Kind of like, you know how Andre the Giant wasn't actually incredibly strong.
Right.
He was just a really tall, really big guy because he
Yeah.
had giantism. Kind of the same thing with this dude. Apparently, I've read a little bit about his history, and yeah, I mean, there's the scene where this same actor in The Day the Earth Stood Still, to bring up a much better movie, he has to carry the leading lady into the flying saucer or something like that. And they actually had to rig something up for him to be able to do that because he could not do it by himself. This guy's not a strong guy, so probably there were some limitations as to what he could wear as a costume, etc., etc. That being said, no excuse for a crappy design. It is just one of the worst costumes. I've seen a lot of really bad costumes. You know, I like these kind of really bad movies
Yeah,
with monster guys in
yep.
suits and stuff. I've seen a lot of really bad ones. This is really, really bad. Roger Corman would puke on this. You know, like it's that bad.
Roger Corman would be like, "I made a better costume in 7 days,"
Yes.
or whatever. Like
he would
like,
grab Paul Blaisdell and have him I don't know, build a giant crab instead or something, and that would be his snow beast would be a giant crab.
Anyways, so the Snow Beast, or not Snow Beast, I keep saying Snow Beast, and that's a film that we will be watching at some point, but it's not this film. Snow Creature, the Yeti, or just say we're just start saying Yeti. That's probably
Yeah,
the best way.
Yeti's probably the better way to do it
Yeah,
because they start at this point calling it the Yeti as well.
yeah. News reaches back to Subaru that his wife has been kidnapped by the Yeti, and he wants to go find her. Well, the two leaders of his party flat out refuse and say it's nonsense because they don't believe that the Yeti is real and it's nonsense, and they don't really give any good reason for why they said no. Besides, it's just a fake legend of a Yeti. So they do that, and so Subra gathers his men and commits a mutiny against them. Rightfully so, in my opinion.
Yeah, Subra based.
Yes,
Awesome dude.
like your wife just got kidnapped by uh, a Bigfoot Yeti. Yeah, the first thing you're gonna do is like, I'm gonna go kill that Yeti.
It's like, dude, even if it isn't a Yeti, you know that your wife has been kidnapped. Or, all right, let's take it from the a-hole American perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he hears that the leader of his Sherpa group has had his wife kidnapped. The guy says it's from a Yeti. Even if it's not from a Yeti, his wife's still been kidnapped.
Yep.
The guy needs to go back and find his wife. You gotta excuse him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you came all the way to Tibet to look for, I guess, flowers on top of the Himalayas. I'm sorry. Your trip's shot for a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But the guy needs to go and find his wife. So he starts to drag these two jerky white guys along with him to help find the Yeti. So they search all around the Yeti, and eventually they end up in a cave.
A Yeti cave. And in the Yeti cave, the Yeti is with his wife and child. We initially thought it was the woman, like the wife of Supra and stuff. That's what we initially thought.
Yeah.
But we discovered it was just the Yeti's wife and child.
And the reason for our confusion is entirely due to the bad transfer. Like 100%. It would have been obvious that it was not just a normal woman.
Yeah.
Had the transfer been better. And also really ambiguous dialogue. So
yeah.
Eventually we found out from the dialogue later down the line that it was not Subra's wife and child. Instead, it was the Yeti's female Yeti and child.
Yeah, which the Yeti causes a rock slide in the cave and kills them, which is wild.
Yeah, wild and weird. I guess like one white guy runs up to the Yeti gets PO'd and accidentally causes a giant rock slide and kills his wife and
or child. They just say child. They don't even say what gender it is.
his
just child.
His female companion and his child.
Yeah,
and then he is somehow not dead, even though it seems like he got the brunt of the rock coverage. But who cares? Who cares?
Yeah. He doesn't die, and he gets put in captured somehow. They capture him and are able to keep him sedated and calm. Which the fact that they have the ability to sedate people on this like journey, like to that capability. It's really weird to me.
Yeah, you would think that maybe the white dudes would have just grabbed a syringe and done it to Subra if they were really that committed to getting back on their flower search, their flower picking.
Which Subra, the based guy that he is, wanted to kill the Yeti at first sight, but is stopped by the white men, and they do a reverse mutiny and take back control of the party and force everyone to march down the mountain with the Yeti. Mm-hmm. And they get back down to the Yeti, and the most obvious Japanese man, like some of the most like if you're like, oh, we don't know Japanese or have never really heard Japanese, the moment you hear this guy, this police inspector guy, Inspector Karma is what he's called.
Yes, Inspector Karma, almost certainly because karma, an Eastern belief.
Yeah, 100% of an Eastern belief, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And this guy is played by an actor named Robert Kino, who is the most Japanese man. I've seen a couple movies this guy's been in. He was in a really fun horror movie from the 80s called Night of the Creeps. So, just good in that. And he's in an 80s fantasy action movie called The Ghost Warrior. which I recently watched and was a lot of very stereotypical fun. It's about a
Nice.
Japanese guy that a samurai that gets frozen and then unfrozen in the 80s.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. I do want to watch that movie. So somehow the American orders this special fridge thing. And what was the line the Japanese guy says? Like, you Americans assembled this over the phone or whatever, like this fridge contraption to hold the Yeti.
As if the Japanese weren't the best at making machines ever.
Yeah,
Like it's like only
seriously.
rivaled by Germany and maybe America in the 1920s or something. Like
Yeah, like early, like late industrial, like a Victorian industrial period age is when really like America was able to like build stuff, tough stuff.
yeah,
And there are still some good quality American things designed.
I
Not to
work
bash
for a
them.
company that makes good American products. That being
Mm,
said, there's no good reason for
this line.
this line, even though he's not supposed to be Japanese. I get that, but he's clearly Japanese. Yeah, yeah. He
Mhm.
answers the phone, Moshi Moshi. Even if you don't know anything about the Japanese language, you know that they answer the phone, Moshi Moshi,
Yes.
because it's stereotypical, right?
Yes.
So anyway, so they get the snow creature, the Yeti, into a big old refrigerator that has a little. It's got a little trap door to give him food, so
Yeah,
that's nice.
we never see this though, but
Yeah,
it
we
has a
never see
it
this, but
has
they
a
talk
trapdoor.
about it.
Apparently, there's a very foggy window. You can never really see his face or the costume or anything because it's so fogged in. And so
They take him to L.A.
they take him to L.A. and this was very unintentionally funny, for some reason. But the U.S. Department of Immigration is questioning his legal status. It's because there's a debate that happens of whether or not he's a man or a creature.
This debate lasts about like 30 seconds, by the way,
Yeah,
but it is apparently a major plot point for some reason. And yeah, so ICE takes him.
yeah. Ice takes him and is going to like keep him for a few days to figure out what this stuff is. But while he's there, the creature breaks out of the fridge seemingly very easily and could have probably done it at any time, but chose to do it here for some reason.
Yeah,
And the security guard just watches this happen. Doesn't go and grab anybody. Doesn't start yelling. Doesn't get on the phone or anything. He just watches this happen. And the Yeti comes out
and
of the
karate
fridge,
chops him right on the head.
basically. But it's more of like he just grabs him and shakes him around a little bit and throws him on the floor and then runs away. And the guy's perfectly fine. Like he's not injured at all.
Yeah. For some reason, only Asian people and women can die in this movie. We don't understand why, except for, you know, sexism and racism, I guess.
Yeah, because the Yeti runs out into the area and goes down the street and freaking kills some random blonde woman
Yeah.
for no reason except for I'm angry and I'm a Yeti, I guess.
I mean,
And
he also has a thing for women, so there's that thing.
yeah,
And they do. There's a reasonably effective scene where we hear a woman scream, and the camera pans over. Bad camera pan, by the way, but camera pans over, and we think that, and she starts to go like, "Oh no, don't do it!" And so we think that there's like something bad happening because of the Yeti. Turns out it's actually just a woman getting thrown out of her house by, I don't know, a man. For what reason we know not. I'm guessing infidelity because she goes like, "Let me explain" or something like that. But
yeah,
anyway, she gets thrown out of her house and she witnesses the Yeti. Very briefly, she runs away, completely gets away from him, and alerts the police. The police are on the outlook for the Yeti, and they find that the Yeti is showing up all over the place, but they track him down to a specific triangulated location, and yet he is then seen far away from that location. How's the Yeti doing it?
and the doctor looks out the window and he sees a street cleaner, like a guy cleaning the shove garbage down a storm drain, which you should never do, by the way.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Super irresponsible.
Maybe it was a
Uh,
thing in the 50s.
mm,
I don't know.
I would hope not. That's horrible.
Yeah.
So he shoves down that, and the doctor's like, "Wait a minute, he's using the storm drain." And so they wake up the guy, the best actor in the whole film besides Subra, that comes in to explain and give them maps for the waterworks and the sewage drains, and he just this oozing of sarcasm and sass. This guy comes onto the screen and sasses the police department.
Anything for
Um,
the police department.
yeah, and gives them the maps for the storm drain, and then we get a long 5 minute sequence of just walking in the sewer in the storm drains, just walking with flashlights in the dark hallways, just walking.
And to be fair, this could create atmosphere and has some level of atmosphere. The unfortunate thing, though, is that we are so bored by this point in the movie that we don't care about that good atmosphere. And also, it's undercut by them reusing shots of the Yeti creature walking towards the camera and then reverse shotting it, walking away from the camera, walking towards the camera, walking away from the camera, walking towards the camera,
Yeah,
and then away
from the camera on reverse, like the same frame, just reverse. So they had to do that a couple different times, and then he finally attacks a police officer, but only roughs him up. He doesn't kill him, and then I guess the Yeti suddenly turns blind and gets caught by a net, and they
Yeah.
try to grab him and calm him down, and he's not doing that. So the police officer just comes out and shoots him. And I
And a
don't,
net is not a character. A net is a net.
yeah, a net. It's literally just a net because the doctor is insistent on, despite this Yeti murdering people, well, he has to. We gotta capture him alive. At this point, no. So the,
No.
the lead detective shoots him, and the Yeti is dead. And so then he goes outside and gets a radio call and hears that his wife, Eve, who we didn't know was pregnant, has a baby boy. And he jokingly jokes that he's going to name the baby after the doctor's first name, Frank. Which, what?
There's no reason. There has been no. There has been no like character development to make us think that the police officer likes the doctor. Nothing to say that the doctor is such a great guy. That in fact we actually have all the evidence to say that the doctor is not a great guy. But apparently he is such a great guy that this dude wants to name his kid after the doctor. And the doctor says, I don't know, I don't really not like the name that much. And so the movie ends. We've complained enough about this movie throughout, well, the entire podcast at this point, to be honest. There's almost no point to even doing an analysis, but we'll do as much as we can here. Um, Outside of all of the things that we have said are negative, like what else can we say? Like, can we say anything positive about it?
Positive?
There's a scene in a meat locker
Mhm.
where the Yeti is sort of stalking around that is poorly shot, but in concept is kind of cool. Where he's sort of lurking behind big like slabs of beef and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. Um, the actor being like actually 7 feet tall, that's kind of cool, you know.
There are shots in when they're in the Himalayas that aren't too bad, and cinematography isn't too bad. And when they're in the Himalayas, the movie's a lot of fun. I feel
Yeah,
like I was very much in. Yeah, there's a lot of hiking shots, but
but like
I can understand why they're there. I'm not bored because of that of those. And there's also some nice tension because it's like, oh, is the Yeti? Is the Yeti's kind of stalking them? And so there's like some fun stuff there, right?
yeah, and like it has sort of this docudrama element
Yeah.
with the narration, the way that it's shot, kind of looks like documentary style. That's like, and that's something that we're going to see a lot of in the future with all these like Bigfoot movies and stuff
Yeah.
like that. A lot of docudrama stuff. So that kind of was fun. The music was serviceable.
Yeah, I didn't really notice the music, which the music that could be a really good positive for the music or really negative for the music, depending on how you feel about music
Yeah,
and movies. I personally, I want to notice the music if I notice the music because the music is important for clarifying tension and creating tension in a scene and making you engage and also like helping for like helping making it seem more interesting than just silence. Yeah, I like the docudrama element, and one thing, the narration just disappears as soon as they leave the mountain.
yeah.
The narration just vanishes like poofs. Mhm.
And even though I'm not a big fan of narration in movies, it's just not a big favorite of mine. Which you would say would be a negative for liking these Bigfoot movies. For whatever reason, like when it's in a docudrama kind of mode, I don't mind that. But it really loses something once we go from that sort of docudrama narrated section in the Himalayas. And, we don't know where this movie was shot. Like, the only thing that's listed is that it was shot in Bronson Canyon and Bronson Caves, which is outside of LA. To me, I don't think that there's any way that they could have gotten snow out there. So
No.
maybe it's a set. Maybe they went to the Rockies or something. Sort of inconclusive. Hard to find out. Certainly, any shot where they were in a cave was in Bronson Caves. So we got that like as a pretty definite shooting location. But all of that was fun and interesting. And as soon as they left that place and they wanted to go all King Kong with it and take him to America and make him either a showpiece or a
Scientific discovery.
yeah, and the
Mm.
government wanting to, I don't know, probably give him LSD or something like they were always
Well,
doing to people and
the
animals.
government wanted to deport him. That's what the government wanted to do.
Yeah, I
Because
guess that's true.
ICE wanted it. ICE took him and was like, "We want to deport him," and like they wanted to debate whether or not he was a man or a beast or
Come
something.
on, the CIA wanted to give him acid.
Yeah, that's the real reasons. J. Edgar Hoover was like, "We got to do this."
Yeah,
So, anyways, we've kind of said a little bit of positives, but I'm gonna hit back on the negatives because one negative we didn't really talk too much about while we were summarizing is the screenplay.
yeah,
Now, we said earlier that the director's son wrote this.
yeah,
And normally, I'm not I don't like nepotism. Nobody likes really nepotism. But sometimes I think it works out. This is a case where it didn't work out at all. The
yeah.
script is really bad. The dialogue really also kind of tanks around the time they leave the mountain. And it's almost like leaving the mountain was the worst idea they could have done.
I mean, like, it's not great while you're on the mountain, while you're in the
Yeah.
Himalayas, because, like, you do have that sort of stereotypical Subra is referring to himself in the third person. Subra afraid. Subra want to do this. Subra want to do that. Or whatever. Native stereotypes with, like, Subra wanting to take alcohol from one of the white guys that's drinking alcohol all the time. So like
Super likes whiskey.
yeah,
Mm.
super like alcohol, super like whiskey,
Mm.
yeah, that kind of thing. That's really dumb. I don't know. Somehow it sort of fits in with sort of the tone and genre of what we're going through while you're in the mountains.
The script doesn't know how to like handle it. I think
Yeah.
because the script, for one, I think doesn't really pay much attention and is too obsessed with this doctor character. It's treating this doctor character like he's some brilliant man, when in reality, he seems to me like as dumb as a brick because
Hmm.
he is just so arrogant and so unlikable, in my opinion. Like he is so unlikable, and if you're making a movie with an unlikable main character, which are movies like that,
Yeah.
you
Fine.
have to understand this character is going to be unlikable. We have to have this character have comeuppance if he's unlikable, and get his. Well, he either needs to become more of a likable person by the end of the movie, or get his just desserts.
but he is commended at every turn
Yeah.
and vindicated at every turn. Like it is the worst kind of character building. Honestly, is that the writer thinks seemingly that he is writing a different character than he is writing.
The, the Doctor is actually a better version of what we call a Mary Sue in media, because he's perfect. He's always commended for being this perfect a guy. He's always right,
Even when he's wrong.
even when he's wrong, and he's always making the right decisions, the right calls. Well, he is commended for being so smart and so brilliant, and that is the definition of a Mary Sue. That
Yeah.
word gets thrown around a lot, meaning different things, and honestly, I think misapplied several places. But
Yeah.
this is the actual literary use for what you call a Mary Sue type character.
For sure.
Mhm.
And this guy just ends up, and maybe the guy was a good actor outside of this. I don't know. I haven't seen any of his work.
I wasn't too impressed.
I was not impressed either. But you know, if if he turns out to be talented outside of this, then I think we can put all of the blame on the screenplay, at least for that.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just frankly sleepwalking through it. Maybe he knows the movie he's making, just isn't giving us anything. I think that there's a good kind of knowing the movie that you're making in these kind of like B movie or sort of schlocky, fun old horror movie things. Like there's two types. There's one, which is what we get here, possibly, where the guy knows that it's just a crappy horror movie and he's probably not going to get a lot of legacy out of this. So he's just going to sleepwalk through the role. He's going to be a block of wood the entire time, even though his character is at every turn given chances to be the heroic guy. But then the other side, the more positive side, is what I refer to as the Vincent Price side. Vincent Price always knew that he was in weirdo horror movies, often crappy horror movies, and yet gave his all every time. We could say for this podcast, the Bela Lugosi style. Lugosi knew when he was in the Ape Man. Our previously our least favorite movie that we watched on this podcast. He knew he was in a bad Ape Man movie and gave it his all. Gave it everything that he could, despite personal problems, despite filmmaking problems. The guy just did everything that he could to make it a memorable role. And I think I mentioned on that podcast that there are people who go back and watch The Ape Man exclusively for the Lugosi performance, just because he's that good. But we don't get any of that here, really, from any character. And yeah, we liked the sassy guy who was like the city engineer. We liked him, but we liked him sort of in spite of what the script does for him, in spite of what the rest of the movie is doing for that character. We liked Subra because he was a sort of just a man. He was a manly man. He was trying to do what he was supposed to do.
Well, I think we liked him because we agreed with every single motivation that he had, and the script wants us to disagree with him. But the script is so poorly written and the script was so poorly directed that we ended up siding with Supra, because it's like, no, Supra's right. His wife just got kidnapped. He did a mutiny because he saw no other way to save her that. And in the end, he didn't even get to save his wife,
Yeah,
which is just horrible.
yeah. This movie even takes away from a deconstructionist point of view of saying like, okay, the movie isn't the movie isn't trying to say that the botanist is a bad guy, but we can see clearly that he's a bad guy, so the movie ends up sort of inadvertently showing us what's wrong. No, the movie wants us so badly to like this bad man that it even flies in the face of deconstructionism. It is such a bad script to that degree, such a bad movie, so badly shot. Even the stuff that we commended is only passable, to be honest,
Yeah.
and is only passable mostly because of scenery, if
Hmm.
anything. Even when they're in LA, where there's possibilities where you could have a fairly well designed set or something,
None of the
like
sets were interesting.
nothing was interesting.
It didn't even
Nothing
look
was
like LA.
interesting. It didn't look like LA, didn't feel like LA. You get none of the, like, they mentioned once or twice, I think, like, oh, it's hotter here than it is in the Himalayas. Well, duh.
Yeah, it's
But
LA.
yeah, but we don't get any shots. Like, you could have a shot of, like, the sun beating down. You could focus a shot on the sun and do some of those fun, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, like, fades from the sun to another scene to show how hot and nasty it is and stuff. We don't get any of that. Everything is just so, it's such a slog of a movie to go
Yeah.
through.
To start off this final point before we give up our rating, the Bigfoot element or Yeti element is
Hmm.
so poorly done here
Yeah.
because it's like we have a footprint in this. There is a footprint scene,
Yeah,
and it's
very
like
briefly.
it's very briefly, which is fine. But I don't think it services the Yeti legend at all. It doesn't add anything to it. It doesn't do anything interesting with it. It's just this is just King Kong, but with a Yeti, and it's a poorly done version of King Kong. Because King Kong is actually much more complex and has some complex themes hidden within it about Americans like taking King Kong from his country, about his King Kong connections with a woman and whatnot.
Hmm.
There's a lot of these really. Why is King Kong such a classic and timeless character that we see him time and time again in cinema? The guy writing this didn't even know what to do with a Yeti, except for, well, I want the Yeti to run around in L.A. It's like cool, but the Yeti would be used to cooler climates, so create this element and this feeling of, well, he only comes out really late at night when it's cool, and otherwise he hides in the sewer systems and stuff. Which I think they try to do that, but it's just
Yeah.
done so poorly that you don't realize it at all. That's what the film was doing.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to give it a rating. And so first of all, I want to ask you a question, Steven.
Yeah.
Is 0 a number?
I was thinking about this because I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to say for my rating here. One of my favorites, Leonard Maltin, I've brought him up several times, and I base a lot of my sort of methodology on some of what Leonard Maltin would say about this kind of stuff, with my own opinions. I'm not taking Maltin's opinion into account. I'm only taking into account sort of like what his rating system would be. And he does it on a scale of 4 stars. Obviously, we do five, but his ranking below half a star is bomb. And I almost want to give this a bomb.
Actually, this is a bomb. Let's give it a heel.
A heel. That's fantastic.
Let's do it a heel. Let's give it a heel. A heel out of Bigfoot, out of 5 big feet.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, I'm going to be only slightly different from you here
Yeah,
because I'm going to give it half a footprint. Um,
half a footprint.
half a foot. The reason for that being, I did kind of like a couple of the things in the Himalayas when they were there. I thought the scenery was okay. There was a point where I even said to you, maybe like 5-10 minutes into the movie, where I was like, I'm liking this so far.
Yeah,
And I expected, I really wanted to have a sort of like contrarian view on this, because this has such terrible ratings. 3.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 2.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and honestly, as a cinema fan, as a movie maniac, as I like to say, it feels really good when you can find something that most people don't like and you can champion that. It feels good because it's sort of that, oh man, like I'm the only one that gets this movie, and I think that sometimes is a positive and most of the times is a negative aspect of film criticism.
Yeah,
But But it feels good if you can find a movie to latch onto that most people don't like. And I have those movies. I wanted this to be one. I really wanted this to be one that I would, for some reason, like. But I can't. I can't make it one that I like.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. It's not one we should can recommend.
Yeah. So I'm.
If you're a Bigfoot completish, like you want to complete and watch all the Bigfoot movies like we are, yeah, fine, I guess. But no, I that's why I said I give it a heel. Our new rating, heel.
Yes.
Because it's just no, like that's not it's not even worth. I don't think it's even worth watching or even worth mentioning in the Yeti discussion.
Yes, it is. This is one of those movies that exists as an example of a first, and it was not meant to be watched. Like, it's just, it should exist on a list of things that as this is the first one of them, this is the first one of them, this is the first one of them. And you always say, well, maybe I'll go and watch that one day, and then never do. That's where this movie is supposed to exist. It was not meant to be watched. I'm telling you, like, your life is worse for having seen it. I do feel that way. Like, very very few times have I actually felt that from a movie. I feel that about this. I feel that amount of negativity. And that being said, I still can't quite give it a heel. I want to give credit where credit I think is due, but I completely support Isaac's opinion that it should be a heel. I
Yeah,
really think so. I think this is so bad. Like, even with we disliked the Ape Man a lot,
yeah,
but there were a few little things about the Ape Man, and one of them is just the presence of Bela Lugosi that made it worth watching. And there's almost nothing to to say about this movie. So yeah, so we don't like this one. We don't
no.
recommend it.
What's next?
The next Yeti movie.
Yep, we're in
Um,
Yeti territory right now.
yeah, we are in Yeti territory. This is going to be sort of a trilogy of Yeti films.
Yep.
What's next is Man Beast.
Man Beast. Wait, Man Beast. I thought there was another snow one.
There's going to be another snowman.
Oh,
Uh,
is Man Beast next?
Man Beast is next.
Okay, Man Beast.
Yep.
Man Beast. Look forward to us watching Man Beast. Listen in on for Man Beast, and
Normally, I would ask you if you believe in the Yeti or the Bigfoot yet. It's almost not even worth asking.
I do have something interesting to say if you want to ask me.
Do you believe yet?
No, but if I were to believe Eve anything, I would believe in the Yeti. This movie has no compelling evidence for the Yeti
Mm-hmm.
because it gets everything wrong.
Yes, this is true.
But the Yeti, I think, is the most likely Bigfoot cryptid to exist.